The 2008 recession. What were the causes behind that? Now, let me tell you the differences between recession and depression. Depression is a case where economic activity, now let's say economic activity focuses on manufacturing. Manufacturing is all going to become zero. Now, there have been two countries that have declared depression. The most recent one was Greece. Before Greece in 1929, America declared depression. Recession is something that comes and goes every so often. But the most notorious recession we've seen is the 2008 recession, which was caused by several banks in America. So what happened? How come all of a sudden dozens of banks in America collapsed and the whole world was shaken by what happened in America in 2008? Now there are a few reasons behind this. Let's look at them one at a time. One is the subprime crisis. Subprime crisis. Now, subprime talks about giving loans to people who cannot afford to repay. Now, you might ask yourself, why go about giving loans to someone who cannot go about repaying this? Now, there are several reasons behind that. Now, most of the people who borrowed these loans were from the minority communities, like African Americans and Hispanics. Now, when they would approach to a bank and ask them, give me a loan, I want to go about buying a house. Most of the loans here were, remember, housing loans. I'll tell you why the housing loans are the big culprit in some time. These guys would go about asking for a housing loan. And the banks were obligated to go about giving them because they did not want to have any case against them as racial discrimination. Now, a bank can go about denying a loan to a black guy or a Hispanic, but later on they didn't want to fear that they are denying loans because these people are of a different color. So that's one reason why they went on to give loans to people who really could not go about repaying this. Now the banks have gone about giving loans to people who cannot really repay. Now there's a bit of a financial crunch. Not the people not repaying it, but there's a problem of liquidity. Home loans have this problem wherein it is going to take you decades before you recover anything from the investment. When I say investment, I mean giving the loan to the person who requested it. Now in India, let's say I were to take a housing loan of 10 lakh rupees, a fairly small amount. Now I've taken the maturity for the housing loan as 20 years. Now let's do some math here. If I have taken a loan of 10 lakh rupees for 20 years, the bank is going to recover all that 10 lakh rupees plus interest in 20 years. So you can see how the liquidity here is very, very low. In comparison to, say, credit cards, in comparison to automobile loans, where you can recover this in 2, maybe 5 years, recovering a housing loan is what is going to be a hurdle. So American banks came out with a very clever tactic. They thought of an idea which is called as securitization. Now, securitization in simple terms means you're going to convert something which is illiquid, that is a housing loan, into something which is going to be a liquid asset, wherein you're going to get back your investment much faster than waiting for the guy who took your loan to repay the full thing. So banks thought of the idea securitization. What did they do next? Now remember, it's not just me who's taken a housing loan. There are hundreds, thousands of others who've taken a housing loan. And getting the money back from these hundreds and thousands of people is going to take a very, very long amount of time. So banks came out with this idea. Let's convert the value of these housing loans into debentures. Now, how are they going to do this? Remember, there is an entirely different subject called financial products where people are able to create financial products. Now, they were able to create a financial product here which was based on the housing loan. Now, let's keep the term simple here. Let's say the total number of loans the bank has given is tallied up to 1 crore. Okay. Now there are 10 people who've taken the housing loans. Now 10 people have taken the housing loans of 10 lakh rupees. So 10 lakhs into 10, 100 lakhs, which is 1 crore rupees. 1 crore rupees is the total amount of housing loans that has been given by a bank. Now this is something they're going to recover in, say, 20 years. So what did they do next? This 1 crore rupees was converted into debentures. And they told investors in the secondary market, that is the stock exchange, to buy these debentures. this is the process of securitization. Now came an even more interesting thing. Now they converted these housing loans into debentures. Now people started to buy these debentures. The 1 crore rupees which you were supposed to get in say 20 years was divided into small debentures. Let's say each debenture was divided into 1 lakh rupees. Okay. Now they were able to sell 100 debentures in the secondary market, and they were able to get their 20 years return in a few minutes in the secondary market. Now came another more problem. The people who were going to repay these housing loans started to default. The bank was very confident that, don't ask me how they were confident by giving loans to people who can't repay. That's America for you. So the banks were in fact quite confident that these people would repay, and then these guys started to default. Then came another problem. The bank had this movement of money being set up. I would take the money from the guy who took the loan, and I would divide that into my income plus the income which I would give to the person who bought that debenture. Now, this is what was it. The guy who was supposed to give you the housing loan, pay that in installments, started to default. Now, when he started to default, there became a big problem for the bank. Now, the bank started to do something wherein they started to foreclose these houses. They told them, get out of the house, we're going to take over the property. Then came another hassle. It was not just 1 or 2 people who started to default on these housing loans. It was hundreds and thousands of people who started to do this. This brought a huge fall in real estate prices. The banks were able to take over the houses, but they were unable to sell these houses. Now, this is something which the person who bought your debenture is not interested to listen. He bought that debenture because he was very confident that when you have in fact given your money to a bank, the bank is going to repay this money to you within a particular amount of time. But these banks never repaid. And now the debenture holders started to tell the bank, start selling your assets. Not the guy who took the loans, start selling your assets and start repaying us. Now imagine this. If a bank is selling away its assets, how are they going to make any revenue at all? Let's say the bank has got 10 branches and they've sold about 3 branches in order to repay these debenture holders. Their operations are going to come down, their revenue is going to come down. Now imagine this happening for hundreds of banks all over America, each one defaulting on paying their debentures just because a guy who took a housing loan couldn't repay this. And when hundreds of banks across America and different parts of the world, which were interlinked in these transactions, started to feel the pinch, the whole country of America went into recession. And that's something that affected not only America, but several countries in Europe, Asia as well, and India to a small extent. I hope you guys found this video helpful. This is the simplest way in which I could talk about how recession works. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section or come on my Facebook page and ask me a question through a message. I'll always be ready to reply. Thank you guys. Have a nice day. Bye.